Welcome back to the Finding Flow podcast. I just want to take a quick second to thank our sponsors, the Inflow Wellness Academy, located in Plymouth, Michigan. They offer some amazing services that can help you better achieve these states of flow by optimizing your health and your wellness. Their services include personal training for general population, for athletes, for just about anybody. They offer pain modalities like massage therapy, laser therapy, yoga, durability classes, and they're experts in nutrition and supplementation. So if you're really looking to take your health and your body and your wellness to the next level, that's the place to be. That's the place to seek out. You can find them at inflowacademy.com. You can find them on Facebook and YouTube at Inflow Wellness Academy and on Instagram at Inflow Academy. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get the ball rolling.
Everything changes.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another wonderful episode of the Finding Flow podcast. I'm Kevin Lowers.
I'm Benjamin Knapp.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Happy Monday.
Yeah, happy Monday.
Glad we got a little earlier start.
Yeah, I need it. I gotta get the kid from school anyway, so this works out. Otherwise, it would have been tough to squeeze it in.
Cool. I was getting lost in a podcast, so again, I don't know if that's time wasted or time well spent. I always feel like I should at least, if I'm listening to a podcast, like chop wood or something, so I'm multitasking.
Sometimes though, because I think I tend to listen to podcasts and audiobooks like while I'm doing something almost all the time. I think that's why I do it. Like if I'm planning just to sit there and consume information, usually I actually read a book. But sometimes with the podcast, it's like I feel like I should be seated with like a notepad. So actually, like this Ben Greenfield podcast you were just listening to, where he's just giving like so many notes on just how to upgrade your existence. It's one of those things. A lot of it just goes over my head, and then I forget, what to implement and what not to implement. So I go back and I listen, 4 more times. Instead, I should probably just slate out an hour and a half, 2 hours, sit down, and actually like take notes on what they're talking about. But
he did take a moment, actually, right before I came in today. He did take a moment to say that he still believes in like almost like a hacking chronologically, like he's like, well, before you worry about, again, like blood doping, maybe you should, just, start eating organic meat and maybe, try the earthing thing because it's free and it's real and it works. I actually didn't know this. He was talking about earthing because Joe Rogan actually wasn't really familiar with it, but he was talking about earthing. Like I've been pretty familiar with it, but I thought we had like a standard frequency, like the Earth was always X amount of hertz, right? But I guess it can fluctuate anywhere between like 3 and 100. So now I don't know like if you have to go to certain areas or if the same ground just fluctuates.
Wouldn't you assume that it'd be like more like deeper into nature, you would get like a higher frequency?
Right, yeah, perhaps.
Because don't they talk about how like waterfalls are like the greatest negative ion generators?
Okay.
So like potentially like those kind of areas, maybe those are the higher and where it's more effective, more powerful. I mean, that would make sense to my little feeble brain. Yeah. The more we industrialize an area, the weaker it becomes from a electrostim perspective.
Yeah, you and I, just like this podcast, you and I seem like we try, at least with what we know, with the brains that we have, like, we try to hack, we try to, at least we're talking about it, at least we're aware of it, like we're trying to, just get squeeze a little bit more out of each day. And I enjoy it. I enjoy like, having somewhere to be. I enjoy having something that I want to start, continue work on or start work on. So I do like planning my days. In other words, like, last night was the Super Bowl, right? So I wasn't, but maybe in the past, like I would have wanted to get turned up, you know what I mean, and celebrate. But like, I was really just kind of focused on, I really want to have a great Monday. So it was all, I kept it all in perspective. I did go over to our buddy's house, G Money's house. But
did you watch the game over there?
Yeah, I left early though. I was the only one that left before the game was over. So,
what a boring game!
Absolutely,
dude.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's the boring. I only watched half of it, and I'm not the biggest football fan to begin with. So even if it was that exciting, I probably still would have went to bed halfway through the game. But yeah, it was just so uninspiring and unexciting, and it was like 13-3.
And that's what I said. But I actually, it's like, again, it's like the most watched event either, and sports used to be so important to me. So I just feel like my man sport card was on the line.
Well, the crazy thing is, dude, is if you look at the statistics of viewership, you take the Super Bowl, right? I think it's like 300 something million viewers. The World Cup soccer gets into like 2 to 3 billion viewers. Yeah, so just from like a multinational sport, like football's massive here in the U.S., but I feel like it's people don't even pay attention in other countries. Right?
That's why they're trying to play over in London.
Yeah, that's why I think soccer gets because it's just it's like it's a nationwide or a worldwide sport. That's viewed by everybody, and then in other countries it's so intense.
Yeah, even through some of our clients, I definitely love to see soccer. Seemingly, maybe it's at least growing to me because I wasn't really I wasn't very.
Yeah, I'd say still in the U.S. it's not. I mean, it's definitely not one of your top tier sports in the U.S. at all. I feel like it's at the very bottom in the U.S., but. Like I said, worldwide, it's just crazy. Yeah,
but what's funny about that game, like you said, it was boring. So it was interesting. Like I was challenging myself with, I really don't want to just give 3 hours of my night to just sit there, in a chair and just watch other people living their life, But because it was boring, I felt like it was almost a big fucking waste of time. Now, that's no offense to the company that I had. Obviously, when you have nice conversation and have a glass of wine, we had some. I had one glass of wine, some vegetables, and some shrimp cocktail, things like that. But yeah, so I think about that. I think about even my mornings. Like my Monday morning, I don't have to come right in here, so. Just trying to get the most out of each moment. So it's I know we've talked about it before about time travel, but a lot of these talks are going to cross lines because essentially that's what we're trying to do is make sense of life and make sense of all the different stimulus or in some cases lack of stimulus that makes us wonder why. So what do you have besides maybe some salt water you got? I know you have a morning ritual, but on the mornings you have to be here early. That's a little bit more difficult. That ritual is making sure you're up and at 'em. But how do you spend some afternoon hours? How are you? What kind of values
even in the mornings, I try to be up here by before 5:30. So I get up at around 4:15 just because I like to still have that ritual, which is obviously the shower and making the bulletproof coffee in the morning, the salt water, making sure I get some cold water exposure just to mostly just to build some grit and resilience. And just at 4:30 in the morning, the last thing I want to do is turn my water in my upstairs shower because my downstairs has been all messed up and I just haven't been using it. For some reason, my upstairs shower, it's it gets so much colder, to the point that it's unmanageable. It's so intense. But when you stick it out, you feel like a superhero. And it's no longer 4:15 and you're no longer groggy. As soon as I get out of that shower, it's I've been awake for hours, which is great. I mean, at 4:15 in the morning to have that, it's such an amazing life hack if you're not a morning person, which I definitely am not. I am not. This is all by design. I would not prefer this if I didn't have to because of the work we do. But afternoons, I would say, because I'm up so early, the greatest hack is allowing myself to nap. I used to perceive it as a weakness earlier on in my career. I think most people do, and it's probably good for me then to build out and kind of push myself, see how far I could go. But now with everything I know as far as recovery goes, and I take my training very seriously, so trying to get home and taking anywhere from a 20 to a 1 hour nap midday is the greatest thing ever. And like I said, it was just for me, it was more getting over just allowing myself to do it. There's still sometimes I take a nap, I still kind of get into those little weird dualities. I'm am I being a lazy asshole right now? Because again, there's always something you could be doing. But my theory is if I don't take that nap, and then I'm groggy the rest of my day. Because when I'm up at 4 in the morning, it's just too early for my body. I can't exist well the second half of my day if I don't take a micro nap. Even if it's a 10-minute meditation nap, if for whatever reason it gives me the wind I need for the rest of the day, and if I don't do that, then my productivity goes way down. So my theory is, sacrifice the 40 minutes to an hour to take that nap, and then you're going to have a more productive second half of your day. But yeah, I try to get home. I try to make a good meal for lunch, always a good big meal. And then it's kind of just a relax, spend some time with the fam.
Sometimes are we? I don't mean this in a bad way necessarily, but are we slaves to like pre-programming a little bit? So I guess what I always look at is, again, if you're gonna like win the day, winning the day is all about your attitude, right? Even if you're not hacking and you're just kind of existing, with a certain amount of humor and a certain amount of, nonchalance, if you will, like, life's not so bad, so, and then, but when you try to say, oh, I forgot to do something, or you really wanted to get something done and you couldn't get to it, like, sometimes that'll cause a certain amount of pain, right? You're like, just the way we kind of judge ourselves and the way we like in all cases, we're always judging ourselves. We're always, labeling something as good or bad or effective or ineffective, So it's like, I'm just, I think the same thing. Like if I don't have like salt in my first glass of water in the morning, I feel like I missed on something. And so I try not to be guilty. But can we be slaves to even a hacking schedule?
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a line like between like being absolutely neurotic and having negative side effects, even if they're good things, right? Like I think the best example that I can come up with for myself was doing the ketogenic diet like very strictly. I went through like maybe a little over 3 months of just very intensive like ketogenic dieting where like I was measuring my millimolars, making sure I was in like deep ketosis, sustaining that, and I realized really quickly how like intensive it is. Like the littlest things would knock you out, and if you're trying to really like do it right, I mean, you're not eating out at restaurants out of fear of them putting, like random things on the food. Or if you do, you gotta be that guy that orders like really strictly. Like, I want you to cook it in this. I don't want any of this on there, And I was doing it. It was fine, but it got to the point where, as far as like me and my relationship were going, it was not like existing well. Like I was eating dinner before we would go out to dinner. I was avoiding social gatherings because I just like didn't want to expose myself to like potential like drinking or anything like that. Anything that might knock me out of ketosis, I was just avoiding it because that's how my brain works. I don't moderate well. I'm more of an abstainer. I find that if I want to succeed, I have to like go all in or not be in at all. That's like how I work. But yeah, during that time, I would say I felt so good. I mean, like I can't even fathom how good I felt. But at the same time, I think I was taking it a little too far. I was like damaging relationships. So you can see where like, though it's like probably the greatest diet for like my health long term. Maybe I don't know how many studies they've done on long term ketogenic diets, but it felt like it was going to be damaging on like other aspects of my life. So I had to dial back.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say I had to dial back, and now, I mean, after years of, prodding around with different methods, ideas, I think I got it pretty honed in on like, I follow a high-fat, low-carb diet, but I'm not like neurotic about it anymore. But again, that's what I had to coach myself out of that shit with everything I've ever done. Like I don't start new hobbies out of the fear that I'm going to become so obsessed and they're just going to ruin my life. Like I want to start jiu-jitsu, but I'm fearful that if I start, like all of a sudden, like my training is gonna go out the window. Like I'm just gonna get hyper obsessive. It happened to me with rock climbing. That's why I avoided rock climbing for a while because I was like thinking about it all the time, and I'm like I can't focus on like the other shit I need to get done. So I think there's definitely a line on both sides. But pre-programming in general, I mean, whether you're pre-programmed to have shitty habits or good habits, obviously the pre-programming to have good habits there's going to be a greater upside. But again, I think it can still become toxic.
That's when it goes to, again, even the measurement system. Like if I want to go back into like a therapist chair, it's like everything's about the power of now, right? Just living in the moment. So if you're doing something, it doesn't matter what it is. If it's bringing you joy, we talked about that a couple conversations ago, but if it's bringing you joy, then it's not, as long as it's not hurting other people, then it's a great thing, right? And so, but it's funny, like I was thinking about the jiu-jitsu thing too, and that's what I was doing. We talked about golf the other day, and I'm like, I have to think about my days very literally, like what are the opportunities that I'm going to have to create a 6-hour gap in the way my weeks lay out right now to go golfing 18 holes. You got to drive there, you got to put on your shoes, you got to talk shit, you got to do the putting green, and you got to fucking golf, and then you're behind people that suck, so you're hung up, and it could be a 6-7 hour day. Like, and then I think about like, all right, well, yes, I enjoyed it, but what else could I have done with 6-7 hours, man? Like, how many different things could I have done? I can do 1,000 things in 7 hours. So
yeah, I mean that's I think the constant duality of it. That's why like I guess something that I've tried to get better at over the last year or so is maybe 2 years or so is if I'm gonna go do those kind of things, like being around the right people.
Yeah,
you know, because like golf, like if you're with the right people, it is the greatest thing. Like when we go golfing, dude, you know, like having a couple drinks, maybe blazing a little bit, and having some deep conversation while we're having a great time on the golf course. It's like you're out in nature, 4 hours, nobody turn the phones on airplane mode, put on some good music. It's great, but you can also go golfing with the worst people and have a terrible
bitching
experience.
About everything,
every damn
throwing
thing.
Their clubs.
It's the worst, man. So I guess you know, like a lot of these, you know, indulgent, pleasure-based activities. Instead of just doing them to do them, like I guess I try to assess like who I'm doing them with more now, you know, and then again it's like I don't have that much time to begin with. Like I would rather like if I'm gonna do something socially, like I like to do it with my wife, you know, or like you guys, or a couple of my really good buddies, you know. I don't want to just like go out, you know. I just don't like doing that shit anymore. And then there's no upside to it. There's never upside to it. Like I was telling you on Friday, I was out and I had a couple too many drinks, and like Saturday it was just dog shit, you know. So it's like having that. Ability to like if I have plans that I'm tied to, like go out and just like be disciplined. Like I don't need to drink that much, you know what I mean? But it's weird, like when you're out there, you're in the moment, you're like, all right, I'll have another beer, whatever, we're all doing it, kind of thing. And I get trapped into that still, you know, despite everything I know, despite fucking it up over and over again, having that same morning where you're just like, oh, like.
And dude, and this is exactly you took it exactly where I'm wanting to go with it. You made the analogy earlier. Like you got so into being like healthy and keto and going to bed on time that it was compromising your relationships. I think about that a lot. And you and I, we talk about the wives and everything like that. And just because this is what we do doesn't mean it's what they do, you know. And it's an interesting balance. Like I feel like me and my old lady get along just a skosh better when we've had 2 glasses of wine. But ask her to sit down and talk about her feelings, like we're probably not having sex that night. You know what I mean? It's, you know, I'm probably going to bed early. You know, but it's neat. So I just feel like I feel badly. Well, I don't think it's badly, but I feel compelled to like these people that are our quote friends or the other parts of the relationships that are quote being strained by and I'm like. I just wish they would join me. Don't you find that sometimes? Like it would be so much easier if all of your friends and all of your family would just come here. Like if my mom and my bro and all my family just came up and had like family boot camp and did family sauna time and went family grocery shopping, how much more we'd have to fucking talk about. But because they don't do that, I got to like make shit up to talk about.
Yeah, and just like I think when people aren't ready for the information, like it's useless to even talk about it.
And that sucks.
It's terrible. And again, the thing about what we're talking about is it's just trying to find ways to hack your life to make it easier, to make it more fulfilling,
more fun,
to make it more enjoyable. But again, the thing that I always come back to with that specifically is looking just at like your biology, right? And how influenced it is by your day-to-day, like the food you put in your body, the positive or negative self-talk you put upon yourself throughout the day. You know, the time you wake up, your circadian rhythm, how active you are, how sedentary you are. Like all these things influence your mood and emotions, you know. So it's one of those things. It's like it's hard to have a conversation with somebody that never moves their body, who's shoveling in McDonald's because like they're not thinking clearly. Like, and we know this. Like we know that it affects your brain chemistry, and you're legitimately fogged up. You know, so and it's one of those things like you don't have to get super intense about it, but like I think everybody should pay attention to the things that we know for sure influence their mood and emotions on a day-to-day basis. Like you should be paying attention to your diet. We should all be having that conversation. Like what are you eating?
Yeah, if somebody walks into the room that sounds like, first of all, they can carry on a conversation relatively well and is coming up with, hey, you guys, I just read this. First of all, you want to listen. If somebody says, I just read something, like listen to the person. Like it's not an opinion. You read, well, it's somebody else's opinion, but yeah, like you bring information into the room and people shit on it because you're talking over their show. Or, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
or they want to have a piece of pie right now. Look, dude, you don't have to tell me about this study that you read about how your, intestines are inflamed because you're eating exactly what I'm about to stuff in my face. Like, don't shit in my Cheerios. And I'm like, oh, damn, bro. I loved you, man. So I was trying to tell you why you shouldn't eat that.
Yeah.
But you're mad at me. So, all right.
Yeah, and it's also just like, I mean, it always comes back to duality. It's like you can eat that, but like don't just eat that every day.
Right.
And we talk a lot about that on here. It's about like, and again, I'm like I said, I'm the worst with moderation, but I've developed a greater ability to do it to those extents. Like of moderating the negative food I allow in. It's very easy for me to just diet completely. Like, I have no issue. Like, if I wanted to just never eat shit again, I would have no problem doing it. But again, it's being around, like, I like to keep some snack foods in the house for my son. He's 5 years old. Like, he should be able to enjoy shit. And plus, he gets 14 hours of sleep a night. He can do whatever he wants. His body can handle it all. Absolutely. And he knows. I mean, he's smarter than 9 out of 10 adults I ever talk with on a day-to-day when it comes to nutrition. I mean, it's absurd how much he knows, like, about what foods are good for him, what foods are bad for him. He'll limit, like, he doesn't, like, want to eat that much candy because he's starting to kind of understand. He's starting to correlate it with how shitty he feels. Yeah. And that's what I've been trying to push him to understand. And, like, he's so quick, and like he forgets and he moves and he's onto this thing and that thing because he's a 5-year-old kid. So he hasn't really fully understood it yet, but he for sure knows like okay, this is like cereal's not good for me, but it tastes really good, so I can eat it sometimes. And that's all I need him to know right now. And eventually, as he gets a little more aware, like introspectively, he's gonna feel how good he feels when he has steak and sauerkraut. He's going to have this energy and this focus. He's going to feel how shitty he feels after eating 6 snickerdoodle cookies. Yeah. You know what I mean?
But then he will. I just want to let you know on the behavioral scale, I'm dealing. I have a 14-year-old, and so she's in rebellion. Like she acknowledges truth. She is very aware of the negative components of poor eating and poor posture. She could probably run a small little lecture on him, but if I say it, she's got to do the opposite. But I heard that from 14 to 21, like you go against everything. I used to be a god. So everything I said was absolutely holy.
Well, at least you're like, and again, I think what it comes down to as well is just being a leader, like by example, like leading from the front, like doing the shit. And that's what I want my son to see, and that's why I take it so serious, right? Like my theory is like if I become a great individual, like on as many playing fields as I can, I mean with the time that we have, like hopefully he's going to see that. But again, with kids, like you have to understand that there are variables. Like you could do everything right from a parenting perspective, and I don't need, that's like not even tangible. Like right and wrong, like there's obvious right and wrongs. Like I shouldn't teach a kid to be like overly aggressive and like fight kids and be mean to kids, like obviously. But like right and wrong is very like shady with in our modern culture right now. Like a lot of things that I believe in and take serious, like other people don't, and vice versa, right? So it's my approach has just been to try to make myself a impressive individual, I guess, and teach him along the way so he's understanding and getting the information, but then living it, like bringing him up here. Like he spends 2 or 3 days up at the gym and he sees people working out, exercising, talking about positive things, and that's the kind of things that I think are going to like really influence his life as he gets older. But like I said, he could also just become like a drug addict, despite all of that, because that happens, man, and that's something I don't think people are willing to talk about a lot of the time. Like there's just like there's so many things that are going to happen from now until he's 18. He's going to hang out with people like, and it's, I don't know, I'm getting like anxious thinking about it because like he's starting to hang out with other kids and he's got to go over to their houses, and I don't know what their parents believe in, but all I know is that I'm a very strange individual. Like with the way I approach life, it's very strange. Like it is not a conventional 9 to 5, Ford plant worker who's going to get the cottage up north and every Friday and Saturday he's going to drink too many Budweisers. Mm-hmm. There's just not my existence. So trying to figure out a way to combat that, and I'm trying to do it through making my kid hyper intelligent. Like I hope he is over there like, listen guys, I don't think we should have fast food. I think we should make a home cooked meal.
That's funny. Yeah, because everything, I think we're doing the right things. I mean, I think everything is a hacking moment, and I think that's what we're kind of talking about is, having long-term views, but like you got to hack this minute. Like again, sit with better posture. Don't just let your kid eat anything because he's got more willpower than you do. But I think it's I kind of lost my train of thought when I was going into something with
hacking each and every second.
Yeah, and I think that I don't necessarily want to. I mean, to use the word judgment's bad, but I mean, there are so many different levels of hacking. We were just talking about Ben Greenfield, and I mean, the amount of things that this guy does is just, it's incredible, and it makes me want to like learn more and immerse myself more. But I think there's a certain amount of responsibility. Like I want, when it's time for my child to like sample drugs and everything like that, I want part of the hacking moments is for me to like talk to her about them and talk to her about like why people, you know, rationally decide to use drugs and alcohol and how it influences their minds and their behaviors. And hopefully she can maybe find like the perfect cocktail for her, because I think everybody's going to.
Well, what I can tell you for sure is that that's going to be better than just going the approach that I think most people have done for a long time. So I know my parents did it, like just everything's bad, like just sheltering,
Yep.
like not talking about it, you know. And I had to you know go through like watching my brother who had really bad addiction problems, and then my like mechanism of dealing with it was to just educate myself. I became like incredibly neurotic about how much I was studying like drugs and alcohol and all these different like modalities for altering your states of consciousness. And then I still remember the first time I smoked weed, like in my head, like I'm doing like a drug, like this is bad, you know, everything my brother went through, everything like, you know, the programs at school, the DARE programs, you know, like, and I remember I just got like first time I ever smoked, I didn't get high. Second time didn't really get high. I still remember the third time. It's great. Like I smoked. I was in the back of my buddy's car with like 3 of my best friends, and like I just like melted and I felt exceptional. And then I got really hungry and I laughed my ass off for like 2 straight hours, went home, slept like a baby, woke up like nothing ever happened. And like it was such a crazy experience because like in my head I had
good
built
memory.
up. Well, it is, man. And
when you drink alcohol for the first time, it definitely doesn't go down like that.
I still haven't drinking Captain Morgan because I vomited the first time I ever drank off of that shit. Absolute nightmare. But my point is like my perceptions of this stuff was so off from what it actually was. So I think like giving your children the ammunition to at least understand the realities of things, like sheltering them from reality is not an effective parenting model, like any way you put it ever. It almost always backfires. Obviously it's worked in some cases for sure, but I think most of the time it backfires. It's kids rebel against that kind of stuff. Like don't shelter them, like teach them, educate them, and then when they're old enough they can make the decisions. But obviously you gotta keep them from it through their adolescence. You don't want them, you know, doing psychedelics and shit when they're like 15, 16, when their brain's still developing. And we all know that's probably not a road you want to go down. 27?
27. I said we're gonna use every swear word we can think of in a sentence. We're gonna try a cocktail of different drugs. We're gonna wake up the next day and we're gonna decide which ones we want to use, and we're gonna move forward.
I love 27. Yeah. I got the swear word with my kid at like 16 because they're doing it. You know what I mean? Like they're doing it. I want him to, and we talk about it now, man. He's 5. Like he's paying attention. Like I slip every once in a while. I'm like a sailor, you know. Like and I'm like our work environment is very conducive for my profanity. But again, I think when you look at like swear words, right? Like it comes down to whether or not you're being like derogatory or like what's the emotion behind it. And this is what I was trying to explain to Easton the other day because he's got such a simple mind. He's like oh that's a bad word. I think I said like stupid or something. And I was just, you know, teachable moments, and it's going over his head. But
Take
I figure
a knee, brother.
if I keep repeating it, he's going to catch on, and he does with these like very intense concepts that I'm just now understanding at like 25. But I was basically saying that like a word inherently like can't be bad. Like that's dangerous. It's dangerous to make a word bad inherently without like looking at the context that it's being said in.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, it's like I always use the example of like, you know, if I'm standing across from you and I'm like I hate you. Like you're the worst. Like that's bad language. Like that's mean. Like that's just you're individually trying to be mean to somebody, right? Like, don't do that ever. Even if you're not using swear words, like you're the worst, you know? Like, those aren't swear words, but it's still derogatory and mean-spirited, you know? Or, like, fuck you. Like, fuck you.
That's harsh.
That's harsh. But, like, my theory is, like, would you rather go on vacation, or would you rather go on a sweet-ass fucking vacation? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I want to go on the second one.
Yeah.
You know, so like these words can be used to amplify emotions, you know. So I got on one knee, you know, and I was explaining to him that like it's more about like how you're saying the words that's going to convey whether they're good or bad, if the words could be. But he kind of got it, but he was like, I don't really get it. But it's hilarious because he knows. I've asked him in private. I'm like, what swear words do you know? And like he got all nervous. I'm like, it's okay, dude, say them. He was going off and off and off. Best one though, he goes, whore. But listen to this before people get angry, right? We never say that. No, like no one around me ever says that word.
That's an ugly word.
Yeah, that's just a mean word. Like there's no way you're using that word that
in a good sentence.
There's definitely a couple words that are just like mean, no matter which way you use them, right?
Like in a nursery rhyme, here comes the horse Cinderella.
Yeah, right. Nobody does that. But it's funny because me and my wife are sitting there like, how does he know this? Like the shits. Like I get that. Like he overhears that sometimes. Whatever. But we were sitting there thinking, and then we realized we used to do thumb wars, and he would call them thumb whores. And like we laughed about it, but then eventually we're like, that's a really bad word, buddy. Like, don't do that. So that's like where he correlated. Right. Yeah,
so he wouldn't know how to use it horribly offensive.
No, he was just saying thumb whores, like instead of thumb wars.
That's funny.
But yeah, it's one of those things like they're teachable moments, and again, it's giving him more tools to eventually hack his life and understand things and have like a very sturdy ground of who he is and what he believes in, kind of thing.
I'm so thankful that children are so much more adaptable to us as ignorant parents, but they're also open to those little teachable moments, and they love when we take a knee. And man, I wish as we got to be adults that we were more into that. I wish we would take a knee with each other. You know what I mean? It's like for somebody to give you, when you're of the same age, it seems like for somebody to give you advice on something, especially if it's something that's like countering like maybe a habit that you have. But even if it's just meant to like push you forward, how just how the ego kicks in, it protects itself, it defends itself, it rejects your proposal. And man, I wish that we would, as adults, like take knees with each other, like all the time. Like especially if I'm being irate, like I want to turn around and everybody in the gym's on a knee saying, "Hey Ben, this is when you know what I mean?" It's like I just don't. I wish we were so much more. I don't know how we've lost the adaptability to learning from each other. Like I don't know what age that was that we stopped like listening to how something's presented and actually listen to the information as it's given. So
everything's weirder now too because you take even like a century or less ago, like age really did dictate intelligence because like you just didn't have access to information. Like you had to get a mentor and you had to work alongside them to learn from them, and they had a mentor and it was passed on, or you go to the library and you're reading books, but like how many people were actually doing that? Whereas now today with the age of information and technology, like you can learn things from younger people now, and like very commonly, I would say. I'd say a lot of the way the world works now, like a lot of the younger generations understand it better than the older generations do. And then on top of that, if like I would say I've been a very motivated human for the last 4 or 5 years of my life, like since having my son. So like 19 to 24, I'll be 25 in like 20 days. So like almost 5-6 years. I've just consumed.
So you're like 24 3/4.
Pretty much, man. A little more than that. I'm like 23.9. but
50,000.
Yeah. How much money do I owe you? 50,009. Oh, bro, last night. What did he say?
By the way, we're jumping into the 50,000. That's the Easton Chronicles.
Yeah, that's
he has a 50,000 value for everything, whether it's seconds, days, dollars, cents, whatever. It's fun.
Dude, he went on last night. I was laughing so hard. He was going like, he just kept building on. He's like 50,000,647,000. And he did it for like a minute, and then he just ends. He just goes 669. and I was just fucking. It was hysterical, man. But in his own little head, it's like, like I think I've said this on here before, but I'll be like, all right, buddy. Like he's starting to kind of understand time, but he still doesn't, which is such an amazing thing. Like it's so beautiful that he doesn't know what time is yet. Like think about how much your day is ran on, like I got to be here at this time, I got this appointment, I got to be home by this time.
That's what we're talking about, hacking time.
Exactly, but he just doesn't even understand it yet. So it'll be like nighttime. I'll be like, all right, 5 more minutes, buddy. And he'll look at me and be like, 50,000 more minutes. I'm like, dude, that's like weeks.
That's like a life.
Yeah, like no, dude, like that's not how this works. I'll be like, you do a chart. How much money do you think you deserve for that? $50,000.
Wow.
I'm like, damn, that's some compensation.
Well, how much would you if you mowed the lawn?
Yeah. But I'm
just asking. Put away.
It's so beautiful, man, because time breeds anxiety. I think if we didn't have time, obviously it'd be a shit show. But like there wouldn't be anxiety. Like I feel like time like produces the most anxiety, at least for like just the average person. Like I know it gives me anxiety. Like if I'm running a little bit late, like
well, that's what we're talking. That's what we're talking about. Like even on these levels of hacking, even on these levels of being very productive with your downtime. Like there is, I'm trying to get rid of it, but there's that element of angst. Like if I don't get around to shit the way I fucking thought I would. So it's
and I
funny.
never do the way I think I would.
It never works out exactly.
No.
I said I was going to be home with my ribeyes with them marinating by noon. There's no fucking way I'm going to be home by noon. I still got to go over to the rec center.
You got to go to the rec?
I'm just going to go check it out and maybe get that family plan.
Yeah, dude, do it. We can start rock climbing.
That's
and
what I want to
lose
do.
our lives.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, maybe instead of golfing this summer,
We'll
we'll
do jiu-jitsu and rock climbing.
That's bad.
I'm afraid of the jiu-jitsu thing because if I enjoy it, that could be like a couple hours a day, every day.
Yeah. See, I think I want to start, I think I want to make some very strong guidelines to begin with. But it would be cool if you get into it too, because then we can roll on our blue floor. Yeah. And we can drill. And I think that's what I want to do. I want to just learn the intricacies of it. I'm not really too concerned with really competing, you know. But then again, I know myself. That's why I'm fearful, because I'm an ultra competitive person just by nature. That's just how I've always been. Just ask my parents terrifying stories of me being way too competitive, and I see it in my kid. Him losing, he'll throw the game board and cry, and we're really working on it. Yeah, I'm fearful that I might get a little too intensive with it. But I think if I can set boundaries before I start, say okay, I'm only going to go to class once a week. That's it. And then, maybe we drill some stuff we've learned here. I'm not mad at doing that. And then also, being very, reserved and, mellow with the way I train. Because I can't afford to get cranked on. I can't afford to have my elbows, my wrists, my shoulders cranked on. I love my training too much. What I'm doing with all my gymnastics work. And, one asshole white belt, and I'm a white belt, so I shouldn't say that. That's a little overly aggressive. Cranks on it, doesn't, feel your tap, and all of a sudden, you got a shoulder dislocate. So there's definitely pros and cons to it. But, the intricacies of it and, the mental nature of jiu-jitsu just fascinates me endlessly. The same with rock climbing. It's high-level problem solving, both on two different playing fields. You know what I mean? When you're rock climbing, unless you go the path and you know the path or it's lined out for you, then it's not as much thinking. But if you just kind of free climb there, it's all it's endless possibilities of how you can navigate and train that wall. But yeah, I think that'd be fun.
So what did we talk about today?
What did we talk about today?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Cool.
Just a bunch of shit.
Hopefully, y'all got something out of it.
We still got some time.
Are we still going? Well, how long?
Yeah, dude, it's only 36 minutes in. You want to keep talking shit?
That was wow.
On time travel, bro. I got to.
That was time travel a little bit.
It's 10:22. I got to be out of here at about 10:40, 10:45. If we wrap it up by 10:40, it gives us another 15 or so minutes.
I don't know if I have anything else to say.
Nothing?
Well, because I felt like we were at that wrap-up point.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, it was weird. I felt like we were talking for an hour and a half.
No, man. There's nothing else you want to touch on?
Oh no. Yeah, we can always do that. So I guess we'll take it into the. We'll move it forward. But it is interesting. Almost if that's our. If we had a cool sponsor, that'd be a great sponsor point where we kind of go to the bathroom, get something to drink, come back. And all right, man, we're back. We're back. We're back again. We're doing this all day.
Yeah.
Maybe we should do a radio show where we do 4 hours and we just talk shit. I think that would have to be miserable.
Or you know what we should do? We should bring a panel on and only give people 20 seconds to talk and then cut them off. And then go to commercial break. Right when you're about to say something influential,
that sounds very interesting, but we got to go to commercial.
Now we're going to cut commercial.
So it was great having him on today.
Yeah. And now I'm going to give you the one answer that you need to succeed in life. But right after this break, dude, shows, watching, that's why Netflix and all these other platforms have just changed the game. Watching shows without commercials, I can't ever not do it again.
Commercials seem like there's more of them.
Well, and it's just the way they end. They cut their stuff. It's so genius, good for them. But when they cut the commercial, it's right when you're leaning in.
Oh yeah.
And all of a sudden they're and see you later. And then you got to sit there and watch commercials. Although I have a strange appreciation and fascination for commercials if they're good. Did you what'd you think about all the Super Bowl commercials? I
don't even know that maybe it's me or maybe it's them or maybe it's us, but I find no joy in any of those, not even on the smallest level. And I try to will myself into that because I thought that was the whole thing. I thought the whole thing was not the Super Bowl itself, but
Check
all
this
of
out,
the things that surround it.
$4.5 million for one 30-second ad spot.
Like, how could that possibly correlate to new business? Like, when you have an advertising budget like that, like, isn't it motivated by – I think about it. Like, okay, let's say that here at the Inflow Academy, like, we put $25,000 into some advertising campaign. Like, in the back of your mind, you're like, all right, so if I'm putting 25 in, it better bring me 100.
Yeah.
How do you $4.5 million for 30 seconds?
Well, think about this, too. Like, Bud like, Anheuser had, like, 10 commercials. It's like, and, like, I think it's each spot. Like, each spot is 4.5. Like, not like you get the spot and every time they go to commercials,
yeah,
you
but
get
people
it.
that drink Bud and Bud Light were not convinced to do so through the Super Bowl. Like, they've been drinking that shit since they were probably 13,
yeah.
Right? That's who drinks Bud Light because they don't know there's craft beers out there.
But I think it's just more of like being a player. Like whether it leads to sales or not, I think it just shows you're a player in the game.
Well, I think that's the grotesque nature that I might be referring to. I think about that. So if they spent, maybe they have like a certain obligation to spend a certain percentage of their profit on shit like this. But I'm like, you could have built homes for a bunch of people.
Oh, yeah, they easily spent over $25 million.
You could have cleaned plastic up out of the ocean. I realize that's not necessarily your job, but the people that you get drunk are the reason why there's pollution in the fucking lakes and everything.
Yeah, at least.
Right? So don't you have an environmental purpose outside of just getting people fucking ripped every weekend? I think that's what I'm saying. Like, Budweiser should be sponsoring like Al-Anon. Budweiser should be paying for people's rehabilitation and probation. Like, why isn't Budweiser a part? Like, if you have a casino, you should have a room where you talk about like gambling addictions.
It's a public company. And all they care about is that, like, the infinite growth model of a lot of these like super giant companies is just so fascinating to me because, like, on these unlimited growth models, it's you either grow or you die. So you look at like leadership, right? You put a guy as CEO in front of a public company that's massive. Take Anheuser for example, and if they aren't showing tangible increases in revenue every single year on the year, that guy gets fired.
Quarterly.
Like they move in, the Cheryls move in, and they say, okay, you're not fit for the job anymore. So again, it's like what these people must be doing to bring in more money. Like that's why it gets so dark and shady. Like that's why like the whole public company thing is kind of terrifying because if you have to keep making more money, like why? Like why? Like you're making.
And then who? Right.
What are you doing with it?
Right.
Like it's mind-boggling. So it's one thing if you're like making more money to reinvest it into like really good causes. Like I'm all on board for that. But when it's just this very terrifying infinite growth model where you're shitting on people, like the shady stuff that goes on with all these like Kellogg type companies that are massive, that are poisoning people, that are it's just
finding
dark.
all these traces of this and that, and just Frosted Flakes. Like Frosted Flakes is supposed to be an innocent little cereal. I should not find particles of fertilizer in it.
Yeah,
it's just real simple.
Arsenic in it.
It does. I mean, I think about that, like why they are not more morally driven by cleaning up their own fucking mess.
Well,
and don't tell me
it's expensive.
It's also expensive hiding it, though, isn't it?
Well, once you get caught, yeah. And now it's like you can't really get away with anything. Like I was talking with Nick. So the craziest thing about the Super Bowl commercials, this is kind of why I wanted to bring this up, was that, but like you think about how much money they spent for those ads. What they were pushing, what their big ploy for marketing was that they're no longer using corn syrup in their beer, which is like it was amazing to me. I was like super pumped about it. I'm like, we're changing.
But then they shit on Coors Light.
Yeah, which is great. I love that shit. I'm good for some conflict.
Well, I'll drink Coors before I'll drink Bud.
Yeah. But it was just like, it just goes to show like that we're becoming, I think, a little more conscious globally about things like health and wellness. And because the media is so prominent and you can't get away with anything, it's forcing a lot of these companies, like look at the supplement industry. Like it used to be so shady, but now it's like
you have some regulations now.
You put some shit out there, and it's not really that they have like regulations. It's like these companies have to go get accredited through all these things, and if they do it with their own money, on their own time, because like they want to be a player in the game, right? And now if you put a shit supplement out there and someone reviews it, that could go viral and ruin your whole company overnight.
Yeah, it's weird. I think I'm almost. I guess I use the word angry because I know that nobody from Budweiser executives listening, but. Like the fact that they're going to start doing like CBD infused beverages, and I feel like it's giving the devil, something that's good and honest, and I just feel like only hippies should be able to sell CBD and make massive amounts of money.
Wasn't the devil an angel at one point?
Yeah. Ooh, yeah. You know what? I read the Book of Satan. Did you know that? Yeah. I wanted to, and they actually depict Lucifer as like, why are you blaming everything on him? Like it was. Maybe we'll go to that for a quick second. But anyways, no. But I think about that. Yeah, I guess the devil. I use that as just a funny analogy. But I do think about that. I think about like why I get angry when they say the government's going to end up taking over all the marijuana plants. Because I assume they're going to bastardize it, make it lower quality, sprinkle some chemicals on it, have a derived motivation for what they're hoping to do with our minds in the next 20 years and what they could be creating to make their next money on. And I think it makes me a little, like I said, I just feel like Budweiser should, fix some of the.
Yeah, like I love capitalism. Like I'll be the first to say it. Like I love it. I think it's the best model we got. Because it breeds innovation and it breeds self-motivation and like you can really like be self-made. Like you can really tangibly change your life through hard work and dedication, focus, and becoming more intelligent. But at the same time, like there's got to be like a tipping point. Like when you're just making like billions of dollars, like let's do something with this shit.
Absolutely.
Like there's got to be like a level like that you reach, and like money is no longer doing anything to make your life any better. Like, and they've done studies on this. I think it's like $100,000. It's like $100,000 a year, like, and beyond that, the improvements in your life is so minuscule. But when you go from making $20,000 a year to $100,000 a year, I mean, everything changes. Everything changes, especially like because now you can actually live comfortably. Like when you're like we've both lived very uncomfortably, and it sucks. It's a
being
callous,
able to afford a weekly massage.
Yeah, it's a callous on your day. Like if I could go do cryo twice a week and float, and like that's where I would spend all my money on, like just things to improve like my psyche, my mind, my body, my thinking, and it maybe improve the people around me, their thinking, their minds, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, man, it's kind of wild how much money some of these people.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's like Wall Street is the little bit that I know about it. Like it seems to be dominated only by like quarterly reports. Like you have to show growth, you have to show reduction in cost, you have to show option, like why this company is going to be valuable in a year from now, and I think about that. Like I would love, wouldn't you be more inclined to invest in a company that says, and after we make X amount of profit, we build. Again, we build community centers, or we're getting filtered water in whatever jungle or whatever. It's like, I mean, couldn't that persuade Wall Street a little bit? Like, don't you want people not just investing based on profitability? Because remember, what are we willing to do to maintain it? Like Monsanto comes to mind. Everybody, they seem to be like the leaders in corruption, and yet they become richer every year. I don't understand it. But, with that said, it's like I'd like for Monsanto to say, yeah, like, right, we do make some sprays and we do make some chemicals and, but, to help try to grow richer, fuller crops so we can feed the world. And we are working on, coming up with safer mechanisms, but we're recommending that everybody always wash your food. Like I said, you could, because again, I think there's a certain amount. It's kind of like building this fucking wall. Like you can't just say like to do it or to not do it. Like let's sit down and like let's actually talk about the logistics of why you think it's important, why it needs to be that height, this width made of this material, and why you guys are vehemently against it. Like let's talk about it. Like educate me, Monsanto, educate me on why these. Maybe trace chemicals on how, yes, in large sums can be very, very bad for people, but how they make, again, like a more fruitful crop. Like, and then let me make like a logical decision on whether or not I hate you. Yeah. Rather than not just assuming that it's all corruption, all evil, and all out to get us. Yeah,
and the thing is about a lot of these companies too, which is the most fascinating part, is that they're no longer like individual. Like it's like the company itself is its own superorganism, and it's functioning beyond any one individual. Like no one individual can steer the ship anymore with a lot of these companies, and they're momentum bound. So they're moving so quickly, and they're snowballing, and everybody that tries to put their hands up and stop that snowball just gets ran over and crushed. Mm-hmm. And they're just riding that wave, and they're just crushing everything in their path, man. And I'm way too stupid to have an answer to any of this. We're just
well, I guess how about this? Maybe if you're going to open up like a chemical plant, you're like, hi, I'm Ben Knapp. I'm filling out the paperwork. I want to open a chemical plant that I'm going to spray all over all your cereal. well, maybe they should do a psychological evaluation on me to find out if I should be holding the keys to a fucking bomb like that.
Yeah, most likely
because if I'm sitting across from you looking, fairly schizophrenic, like maybe you need to hold off on, granting you that. Yeah, I don't know. Like, how do you evaluate? But that's what I'm saying. I don't want to just assume corruption. I want to assume people that do control this amount of power have some good in mind, but I sure wish I knew more about it.
Yeah, I'd say individually,
more people talked about
You would assume that individually, a lot of them do. I mean, a lot of those guys gotta because I just think about trying to put myself in their shoe, and we got to wrap this up in a sec. But putting myself in say the CEO of one of these massive companies, where your livelihood is dependent on showing tangible improvements in profitability, and that's it. So there's no and you lose your job if you don't do that. So no matter how civil and good of a person you are and these ideas that you have and that you want to transition, a lot of it's not going to show profitability. So they're just going to push you out because the shareholders just want to make their money. To
me, it would be beautiful for somebody to say, we're going to post a loss in the second and third quarter of this upcoming year because we're actually in the process of switching out all of our old electrical systems, all of our old plumbing systems, and we're going to be going to all renewable energy. It's going to cost us a decent amount of money, but we're forecasting over the next 5 years on how that's actually going to provide X amount of jobs, lower pollution by X, and make a safer workplace for X amount of workforce growth. That's I'm in.
Yeah,
I'm in on that.
And we know now, just after having the internet around long enough, that that is usually a very positive thing long term for a company or an individual, right? It being very open and accepting the things that you've done wrong, and then basically proposing a new way of doing things. Maybe it hits you hard in the beginning and it hurts, but eventually it plays out. A lot more. It's you could boil it down to an individual lying. It's never worth it. You know what I mean? It seems worth it when you're trying to protect somebody. But then if they find out from another source, now you just lost all the trust. They just lost all their trust in you. So it seems like a great idea. You're not thinking about the long-term effect. You're kind of short-term, trying to just put out a fire maybe, and you're just riding that momentum instead of sitting back, thinking long-term, being objective, and assessing. Look at Monsanto. Everybody knows they're shit. They're a piece of shit. Their whole company's a piece of shit. Everybody knows that now, and yet they still profit. They're still crushing because people are so not everybody. I say that very loosely. Anybody that's actively seeking knows that Monsanto is a piece of shit.
That 289 million was that? I think that was Monsanto. Just some black guy just earned 289 million last week. One guy. I mean, he's almost dead.
Yeah. Fuck, man.
Fuck, it's
terrifying.
Huge. So yeah, I mean, it goes back to, again, I think hacking, winning moments, sitting upright, being more open-minded.
What are your two top hacks that people can do right now to start feeling better?
I think it's a great question, and so because there's so many, I don't know that two is fair. I would say it's really it should be reactionary. I think what is a good hack for you is something that is countering something you might already be doing. So what's a best hack for me may not be a best hack for you. So again, for you, it might be reminding yourself to stand up. If you sit at a desk for 8 hours a day, standing up for 10 minutes and kind of walking around and working some posture, that might be a great hack for an office worker.
I love
that. And maybe practicing a love journal and an Epsom salt bath at least a couple nights a week, so you can actually try to experience a more restful, awesome night's sleep. But I think it is important to just, as the individual, again, just find your own hack and react. I think that's how I would say it.
Yeah. I would say for me, it would two that I just think everybody would benefit from would be having a nighttime routine and getting to bed at a decent time. Because again, your next day starts with how you prepare for that night, right? So maybe a little bit of CBD at night. Sure. Turning all the blue lights off around an hour or two before bed. Make sure you eat 2+ hours before bed. Yep. Maybe do some foam rolling, stretching. I mean, these are all things that I found great benefit. Maybe some sleepy time tea, chamomile, valerian, that kind of stuff. and then setting up, and then I guess same with kind of winning the morning, trying to get up at a decent time and not oversleeping. And I say this because this is my biggest struggle still. Like, I'd say that if I had one thing that I'm still not as good as I'd like to be, it's waking up right away. I still have been known to snooze my alarm.
Okay.
So I'm working on it, and I'm going to keep myself accountable by talking shit about myself on here.
Yeah.
But anything you want to finish with, man?
Just that I'm thankful for our recent consistency, and again, I just each day I get more excited about like where we're going, and even if it's just creating new thought topics, but it just seems like it's working, so I'm thankful for our time.
Yeah, I love it, man. It's great. And these podcasts are all coming out about a week. They're all like a week delayed, so we're recording, making sure we're on top of it. So if there's any discrepancies in the timeline, that is why. But thanks for listening. As always, check us out, Inflow Wellness Academy, inflowacademy.com.
Coach Ben Knapp.
Instagram, Coach Kev, Movement, MVMT.
Inflow on Instagram.
Inflow Academy, and we'll see y'all next week.
Next time.
Thanks again for tuning in, guys. Just want to give a quick shout to our sponsor, the Inflow Wellness Academy, located in Plymouth, Michigan. Make sure you check them out at inflowacademy.com, on Facebook and YouTube at Inflow Wellness Academy, and Instagram at Inflow Academy. Mention that you're a listener of the Finding Flow podcast and receive some awesome discounts on our exceptional services over at the Inflow Wellness Academy. These services include personal training through semi-private and private. We offer yoga, massage therapy, laser therapy, group classes, just about anything you need to optimize your life. We'll guide you through nutrition, we'll guide you through supplementation, we'll help you build a strong mind and help you achieve a better state of flow on the day-to-day basis. So make sure you check them out, and once again, thanks for tuning in to the Finding Flow podcast.